So if you're worried about me recording this, just a heads up, fair warning, I'm recording it. All right, I'm gonna go check one more time to see if there's anyone out there looking for our location.
Judy didn't want to show up. He was out there, he said he had no meeting. That's pretty harsh. That's pretty bad. That one? The other screen, if you want that off. I don't know. You want this on or off?
Yeah, you can go ahead and throw it on, might as well. Might as well use it, even though I don't think I'm gonna be using it, because I'm gonna be primarily on the surface. Sarah, most important thing is, can I swing on down? Yeah, of course, we have tons of hot and ready pizza. Although it didn't feel as hot and ready because I placed the order ahead of time, because I want to make sure it was ready. Boom, boom, hot and ready. All right, 12:06, we'll go ahead and get this session fired up. I see that we have quite a few of us joining virtually, and we have a good crowd here in person, including a four-legged joiner as well. So you guys can all see the dog, so you know that I'm not making fun of anybody in the room right now, so that's good.
When I type something in the chat, it shows up there. How did you make that happen?
That's the chat bubbles, you can turn those off. Yeah.
How do I turn it on?
They're not on in our classrooms.
Should be, this is a classroom.
I haven't seen that at all this year, so that's even my teacher.
I haven't seen it ever before.
I think it's yeah, it's right. You can't. This doesn't share the screen. But anyways, in the settings on the hub, there's a don't show chat bubbles, and there's also if the opposite is true, there's a on the menu dots.
That way, anytime someone chats, it pops up.
Yeah.
I tried that.
Otherwise, I wouldn't even have any notice.
So for those of you that are tuning in virtually, there's a question about chat bubbles that are showing up on the screen that show all of your beautiful faces. And you can enable those if they're not enabled from the menu dots on the hub. So if you came here for Whiteboard, you already got a bonus feature to this session. All right. So like I said, when we start learning in here, we really start learning. So you're here for Microsoft Whiteboard. I have the session recording. I want to make sure I have my notes pulled up. The purpose of this is kind of two parts. The first thing that I want to do, bear with me, is I want to put a QR code up here for you to scan, because I want you to take a survey for me. And I have actually shared this survey before, and no one filled it out, which is so crazy, because normally when I share surveys with you all, you always fill them out, but it's okay. I'm not dogging on you or anything like that. Virtually, you should be able to see this as well if you just bring up your mobile device and scan that. I'm working on putting together some EdTech Dialect sessions for the spring term. And normally when I do these sessions, it's more about like the actual piece of software, the piece of hardware, or whatever it is, and how you use that. But I'm looking to kind of expand on these sessions and have it about the hardware and software, but more on exactly how you might put it to use in your different learning environments. And this is going to be like last time too, where there's going to be a lot of sharing as well. But I have some topics there ranging anywhere from analytics and how you can pull analytics from things like Nearpod and Teams and Canvas, to an inking session similar to this, but probably a little bit more expansive in terms of what we're going to cover. And you can obviously see and read the survey, Sarah. Can you? Okay. So if you take a minute to fill that out, that'd be great. And if you have ideas for what you want to be covered or what you might want to see covered, don't hesitate to throw that in there as well, because that will help me help you. So there you go. So there's step one. As I mentioned, this is recorded. So if you missed something, or if you want to follow up, or if you just want to share it with somebody else because you thought it was so informative, that recording will be available as well. So we're here to talk about Microsoft Whiteboard. The idea behind this was Microsoft Whiteboard just released a bunch of new features. They kind of revamped their whiteboard space. And so I wanted to make sure that the primary reason for having this is to cover the new features. But I also want to make sure you understand the removal of a lot of limitations and how you can put Whiteboard to use in your learning environments, not just for you standing up here, writing on a physical whiteboard space, but also how you can use it to replace this, to expand on it, to have your students put it to use with each other, how adaptable it is and how it works not just on a Surface Pro or with a Wacom tablet, but also with a mobile device, on the web, with the app. So there's a lot of different places that you can go to get to Whiteboard, okay? So the biggest thing with Whiteboard to think about is it's kind of gotten a bad rap in that when we think Whiteboard, we automatically think it's just a substitute for this, okay? It's just nothing more than a digital piece of this, all right? And as you probably have all learned throughout this term, probably more than others, is that's not necessarily the case, okay? Because the new Whiteboard is going to allow you to take things, okay? Things like a piece of paper and make it digital and place it on that whiteboard. It's going to then allow you to ink all over that piece of paper. It's going to allow you to take your PowerPoint slides, maybe the entirety of your PowerPoint presentation, and place it on the whiteboard. Or maybe there's just a slide here and a slide there. And we're going to get into that a little bit in our short time here as well. So first things first, I kind of want to know how you use Whiteboard. How are you currently using Whiteboard in your learning environments?
Just like that whiteboard.
Use it just like, so we call that more of a substitute.
Yeah, because it's what it is now.
It's a straight up substitute, okay? Because, but it's a very good substitute in the fact that your virtual learners can see it a lot easier than trying to zoom in the camera on it and try to see it.
It was good until they switched it, because now it lags largely.
The actual Microsoft Whiteboard lags?
Yeah, when I write on it, I can't even see myself writing, it's that slow.
Okay. I had a small issue with that today, and I had to restart it 3 times and then it worked, but I've never had that issue before. I don't use it as much as you do.
Every day I have that issue.
Okay. All right. Well, we will definitely look into that. And if others have that issue as well, we obviously need to know about it as well so we can dig in. Any other uses of Whiteboard? I see that there are some in the chat, so I'm going to take a peek at those quick. Let's see here. Sarah says, in addition to the PowerPoint. So Sarah, are you saying that you throw in your PowerPoint slides and then you write all over those PowerPoint slides?
Yeah, so I'll do both. I will write on the PowerPoints themselves, but then if something's not clicking, I pull up the PowerPoint, or not the PowerPoint, the whiteboard, and then I'll re-show like a whole new diagram.
Awesome. And you can definitely ink right on your PowerPoint presentations, but sometimes if you already have a bunch of notes going, or you have it also provides for a collaborative space for students to write on it along with you. So that kind of expands how you can put it to use. Becky Tower says sharing the whiteboard with the students so they can review the math notes. So at the conclusion of the session, you can take those notes and post those to Canvas, but at the same time, the students will have access when they're writing right in there on those notes. You can quickly draw out a problem and have them write right from their space, whether it be on a mobile device with their finger, or they can even use their trackpad to quickly scroll in. And if we're locked into thinking about all you can do is write or ink, there's also a text feature as well where you can slap a text box in there and type your answer in. So if you're worried about I don't really do well with using the mouse, putting a text box in there is a great solution for that. And you as an instructor can do that as well. Like, you don't always have to be inking. You can throw, and I'll show you the new feature here in a second, but there's sticky notes now. You can actually put a sticky note there and start writing the sticky note and move the sticky note wherever you want so that you can move the text wherever you want. Sarah added diagrams and worked equations. So that's a good point as well to be able to. And Sarah, sorry, I had a little something in my throat. Werewolves. If I would have known that I could have had a werewolf at this session, I would have advertised and we would have had a ton more people here for sure. Next time I need a heads up. But anyway, Sarah mentions diagrams. I do have a question, Sarah. When you mention diagrams, are you drawing or writing those diagrams, or do you throw those in as an image and then ink on them?
So when it comes to Like the PowerPoints, like for example, today, we were reviewing something and it just wasn't clicking. So I was like, nope, we're gonna go through and redraw and do a quick review beforehand. So in addition to the PowerPoints that I would already draw on or write on, I would go back and just use a blank whiteboard space. So
Okay.
I'm terrible. I'm terrible at saving them and reusing them. Not gonna lie, for about 3 weeks, I was using the same one and just erasing everything. So I'm learning.
But also keep in mind that we're trying to figure out like how to best put these things to use. Like, and as we keep using those and sharing with each other good ideas, bad ideas, failures, stuff like that, we're going to keep learning more in terms of, does it work to reuse it and erase it, or should we just start a new one? You know, what works best for each one. So
there was, I was thinking back, there was a lab that we just ran out of time for, like with the calculations. So I broke down the calculations in terms of not like, you know, take step 1 and multiply by step 3, but rather, you know, using your such and such and breaking it down with different colors in the diagram, relaying back to their lab. And I posted that, and oh my gosh, like they immediately were able to do it on their own. So, you know, in Supplement, and actually just save the whole document and upload into Canvas right into their work or into the assignment, and that worked too.
and this is great to hear, and I appreciate you sharing that. So how often do you invite students into the whiteboard space to actually do inking on their own?
I will be honest, I didn't know that was even a thing until a student asked me.
Awesome. That's okay. Honesty is great. And I think that you're probably not alone in that, and not knowing that you can invite students into that to ink in that space. So that's totally okay. But that's kind of an expansion of it as well, and having the ability, you know, instead of, you know, in the good old days where they'd write problems on the board and students would walk up to the board and have to solve the problems. A quick substitute for that is you can actually invite students in and write your problems. Or the students can write the problems and you can work on them. Or the students can write problems and solve problems. And now the new feature with reactions is you can say, hey, let's drag reactions over to that and see, put your confidence in who has the right answer. So that's something to think about as well. Heather raised her hand. I'm going to get to her question here in a second. But one of the things that she asked me, because she uses laser pointers in her class and would pass laser pointers around the class before we had these screens that don't reflect lasers at all. And the students would point to what they think is the right answer. I'm right with that, right? All right. So now the laser pointers don't work because they don't reflect off of this unless you're standing dead straight on. And I also learned that lasers can damage these screens too, but I don't know how bad. But so one of the things that Heather can do is actually use this reaction feature that I'm going to show you here in a second to drag those reactions over. If you were to put like an image of a cell or a heart or whatever it is in your area of study up there, and have the students say, identify this valve or something like that, and the students can participate right in that space. Is that what you're going to say?
No, actually, I don't know very much about the digital whiteboarding. I was going to ask, when you do that collaborative stuff with students, can you have multiple whiteboards up so you can have student groups working on different boards, and then you can highlight and show what each group did?
That's a great question. See, that's why we're here, right here. I would say that if I'm using the Whiteboard app, no. But if I bring up multiple browsers with Whiteboard in that, then possibly. We can test that. So go ahead. You in the back.
Could you create multiple whiteboards and then they would just work independently in those?
And you could visit.
You'd visit them.
Yep.
That's what I was thinking, but.
You couldn't show them all at the same time, but you could.
No, but I can highlight one.
You can move in and out of them, yeah.
But you probably could show them all at the same time if you use the web with tab browsing and have them all up on your screen. So, I mean, right from this session, we're what, 20 minutes in? If we count, we started 5 minutes late, 15 minutes in, we already have an awesome use for the whiteboard and expanding how this collaborative space is used. So let's dig in. So first things first, you probably know this, but just in case you don't, there's a lot of different ways for you to access Whiteboard. You can access Whiteboard if you have a Windows device. There's a Whiteboard app on your device. You probably have seen that on the teacher station. You can also access Whiteboard from the web. So if you go to your MCC sign-in area, which I don't have, actually I do have open, surprise, you can see that Whiteboard is right here. Now, the nice thing about Whiteboard for the web is it looks almost exactly, I shouldn't even say almost, it looks exactly like the Whiteboard app now because of the updates. So if you're worried about students not having access, all they have to have is a computer. They don't have to have a touch screen. They don't have to have anything special. And of course, it's gonna maybe ask me to authenticate, but I'm not gonna wait for it. But you can get to the Whiteboard from the web from your My Apps area. You can also get to Whiteboard for the web from any Office 365 area by going to the menu in the upper left. And once that opens, actually I'm in the wrong spot. No, I'm not, I was in the right spot. And once that opens, you'll see Whiteboard is right there as well. Okay, so that's just for the web. When we talk about Teams, we say, hey, we prefer that you use the desktop app. You're going to get the most functionality out of it, the most features, I guess. When it comes to Whiteboard, if you use the web, totally cool, totally fine. Okay. Obviously, we recommend that you use Edge browser because that's back working as it's supposed to as well. So I'm just going to dig into this session. I'm going to use the web, and just like what you see here, you should see it no matter what environment you're on. Okay, whether you're on your mobile device, whether you're on an iPad with an Apple Pencil, it is going to look like this. It's going to show you all of your different. It's going to show you all your different available whiteboards. It's going to show you whiteboards that are collaborative whiteboards, in addition to the ones that you have as individuals. So you can see right here in the middle of my screen, there's an icon that has different people bubbles on it, okay? And so that tells me that it's a collaborative board. If you get a little bit sick of seeing so many whiteboards on your screen, I know, Sarah, you were trying to avoid that by erasing everything. You can either delete them or leave the whiteboard, okay? So there's menu dots here, and from there, you can see this one's a group collaboration, and I own it, so I can delete it. This one down here, I think, is Brianne's, and I don't have the option to delete it. I can change the name, but I'm just gonna. You can see that I can leave it. Now I like having this up here because it's a great example, so I'm not actually gonna leave it. But if I were to hit leave, it would disappear from my whiteboard space. All right. So I'm just gonna hop into a whiteboard that I already have. It's pre-existing. It's kind of cool that it shows some tips. Pay attention to those tips as you're joining. Yes.
Whiteboard in there.
It's a whiteboard that I've already created.
And you can just drop an image in from the web or from wherever.
Oh yeah, I'll show you that. Yeah, for sure. So a couple things about this whiteboard space. First of all, I'm going to make it so it looks like it's a brand new whiteboard space. Whiteboard space is really pretty much unlimited. So now you got this 8-foot whiteboard in your classroom. Having a virtual whiteboard, like, it goes on and on and on and on forever. Now, some of you have found yourselves lost in your whiteboard. Anyone found themselves lost in your whiteboard, where you're like trying to find because you zoomed in too far, then you zoomed way out? That's something that just is, you got to get used to it a little bit. So the whiteboard space has changed just a little bit. I'm here on my Surface Pro on the Whiteboard app, just as a reminder. And you can see there's a home button that'll take me back to all my whiteboards. From here, I can easily rename my whiteboard. So if in Sarah's case, where she's doing a new whiteboard on the same whiteboard every single day, for that day, she could change it to like 11, 16, 21, Math 101. All right, if you wanted to do that. Or if you're doing a new whiteboard every day, tomorrow we'd name it 11, 17, 21, but on a totally different whiteboard. All right, so just like that, I changed the name. You can see it's reflected up there in the upper left. And now we are ready to go. We have very basic toolbars up at the top, a very basic toolbar at the top. This is something that we're used to seeing at the bottom of the screen. Okay, you notice that the bottom of the screen toolbar is not there anymore. Don't panic. Okay, things that you might have been used to, like seeing a ruler on it to draw a straight line, is not there anymore. All right, it's a lot easier for you to draw a straight line these days. Okay, you don't need to bring out the ruler and then place the ruler and draw on it with your stylus, for those of you that have used that or use that feature.
I liked it.
You liked it, Dan liked it. But Dan, your life got easier, and I'll show you here in a second. So now you can just simply select how you want to draw, and you can start drawing. Okay, or inking, or whatever you want to call it. One thing that I want you to be aware of when you do this is notice to the right of my black one right there, that black ink pen, there's a red ink pen that has an arrow by it. Because you can turn on auto arrow on any one of these inking devices here, these inking choices. All right, and if I hold my stylus on there just for a second, you can see down at the very bottom of my choices, below the ink thickness, below the ink colors, and down here at the bottom, we can set it so that it automatically creates an arrow. That's pretty cool if you have an image on your screen, and I'll show you that here, okay? So if I wanted to point to draw, I could just go like that. You can't see it very well because I just draw my line and it creates an arrow. Let me zoom in a little bit more because I'm so zoomed out. And you can see, I'm not obviously drawing that arrow, doing anything other than just drawing a line, and it creates an arrow on it. All right. The only thing where this is a little bit of a snag point is then when you try to write something and forget. I mean, like it's almost like a new font was just invented right here. All right. So I'm just going to flip that pen, my stylus over, get rid of all those. Okay, so just something to think about. I can easily get rid of that just by going down here, turning that off, and you can see that we're back to normal handwriting. All right, another basic item over in the upper right-hand corner. When it comes to sharing your whiteboard space, and this is something I want to backtrack on a little bit. You shouldn't at this point share your whiteboard space in a Teams meeting. So what I mean by that is when you go to share your screen, you have the option for a whiteboard. Don't use that one. Reason being is it will not show up in your meeting recording. Okay. If you want to use Whiteboard during a Teams meeting, share your screen like you normally would and go and open up the Whiteboard app on your desktop or open up the Whiteboard from the web. Okay. I've been asking Microsoft people on Twitter, they're probably like, who's this guy that keeps asking us these questions? But this is a feature that we really want to have because it would be nice to be able to, when you have a Teams meeting running for that day, to tie that whiteboard to that individual meeting. Because then if they go back to that meeting, they can see it in the tab. But just a heads up, always start your whiteboard from the actual whiteboard app. Don't do it from the Teams meeting. Okay. If you want to share your whiteboard with your students, up in the upper right-hand corner, right up here, okay, you have an actual share button. The share space has gotten a lot easier. They slimmed it way down. If you want to share it, you just turn that sharing link on, you copy the link, you take that right over to Teams. Yo.
There used to be a way though that, and there was an option where it said share this in Teams.
Yeah.
And just was boom.
It never worked for me.
It worked for me, awesome.
See, things work for you that don't work for me and for me that don't work for you. Well, someday.
Like that, but obviously it's gone.
Yeah, it is. It is. But you just take that link over to your team channel and paste it in there or in your chat or in the meeting chat, and then they'll all have access to it once they access
It'd be
it.
nice if it came in a little cleaner and it said, this is a whiteboard from whatever, it comes in all sharply. Yeah.
I mean, like this big of a link,
It'd
right?
be nice if it just came in and said, oh, this is the whiteboard from 11/16.
Right. You just have to rename it.
That's just neat.
So over the settings, all right, when we talk about taking the whiteboard, so at the conclusion of your meeting, maybe you want to take that whiteboard space, maybe you wrote on it, maybe students wrote on it, maybe both of you wrote on it, and you want to take it and share it to Canvas, you can easily up top export the image and take that right to Canvas, take that right to Teams, send it to somebody individually. Maybe it's a still session with some notes on it, and you want to ship it off to the students as part of their going away package from your session. You can very easily do that because it grabs it as just an image of your whiteboard. The best thing about that is you could actually take that image and bring it into a future whiteboard if you wanted to kind of revisit those notes. And you can ink and point and circle right on top of those notes or alongside those, however you wanted to do it. I don't know about you, but that seems a lot easier than taking like a printout of an image and taping it to your whiteboard. So you can do things that you couldn't do before. All right. So, hey, math people, Dan is here, and others as well. You can actually go to format background and you can put things like a graph paper as your background. So if you want to plot some graphs, things like that, you can zoom in. Get me out of here.
It'd be nice to put grid lines on there too.
Well, I mean, oh yeah, so you didn't have to draw them yourself. Yeah. But you should be able to, if it's going to actually let me draw now. There we go. Should be able to hold down the shift key.
So it's a shift key.
Yep. And you can see my nice straight line right there. Look at that. Okay. And I can use those grid lines to do exactly that. All right. Now, my hash marks, and I'm not going to get all artsy for you here, are probably not going to be very good, but I could probably even use the shift key for that as well to get nice little straight hash lines. All right, but you can go from there. Now, if you're going to be doing a lot of this, right here, you might create an image of those lines and just drop it in there each time. Because if you start dropping things in as an image, you can then copy those and repeat those or duplicate those over and over.
Kevin, what if I don't have my keyboard with my Surface?
What if
How do
you,
you make the line of the shift button?
so you should be able to bring up the keyboard. Oops, that's the wrong button. Of course, my Teams meeting's in the way. Where is my keyboard? There we go. I just had to disconnect my keyboard. Let's try this, Tricia.
Okay.
So if I hold down,
That's in the way, that's what.
right. No, that's not gonna work.
Okay,
It's good to know, but
so I have to have the keyboard attached, because I take the keyboard off when I'm writing, because it's easier to write with it like this, and then I'll, you know.
okay, Tricia just made me dive right into the meat of this, the new features, and I'm thankful for her for that, and you probably are as well because you're like cut to it. So over on the left-hand side, the next thing we're going to move to here is where you're going to find all the new features for you to add. So if you look right in the left-hand area, there's like a cursor, which is going to allow you to move around the screen. Down below it, there's an ink pen, which does exactly what you think it does, which allows you to ink. And so you can see that when I tap on that, it makes my ink toolbar disappear. And if I'm ready to ink, I can go ahead and do that. There we go. And down below it is where all the goods are, that plus sign. And you can see that's where all the cool things are. Now, Trish doesn't currently have a Surface, or a Surface keyboard, but your keyboard is going to be coming at some point.
I do have one, but I take the keyboard off. And
Oh, okay.
to write on it, it's easier for writing if I have it laying down.
With this awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what you would use is the shapes.
Okay.
And when we go into the shapes, there's actually a line.
Okay.
And it will place a line there. You can see, and I can resize that line just like that. I can recolor that line. So if I want it to be standard teacher red, we can do that. We can duplicate it if we want to and get a bunch more. And so, yeah, there's definitely options there as far as that goes. So you can see from the shape area, there's a lot of different shapes that we can add in there. There's our triangle. And so you can start plotting, things like that. Anyone know the answer? That's not a 41.
What answer you want to do?
I don't know.
7.
Yeah.
Dan bailed me out. I'm not here for my math, okay? I'm not here for my math.
Clearly, you're not here for your math.
Is it my job to answer the questions for the class? No, I'm a facilitator that's pushing you to display knowledge, Michelle.
Right.
And if I gotta take one for the team, I'm taking one for the team. All right, let's keep cruising. So you can see that we can easily add shapes. Side story here, I think it was Bill Bishop that came to me the other day and said, what's going on with my Surface? Every time I draw a C, it turns it into a circle. And it's really annoying. And Bill was not like mad. My voice is way more mad than Bill, Bill, than Bill's would ever be. He's just like, the doggone thing won't stop drawing circles when I try and do C's. And so the issue there in your upper right-hand corner, there's actually this snap to shape feature. So that you see the enhance ink shapes automatically. So the cool thing about that is if you're very poor at drawing circles, it'll actually, and that's not a very good one, but it'll actually like take your circle and make it better. Now, I noticed that it wasn't doing a very good job of that for me today. Obviously, it was doing really well for Bill, but it was actually taking his C's and turning them into complete circles. But when it's working better, it will take that ugly looking triangle that I made right there, and I don't know why it's not doing it right now, but it will.
Go ahead. But the old version did it way better than this version does.
Yeah, so.
This version really doesn't do it very.
So you're saying it's not me?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It's not, and the other thing I found on the old version, which I don't know if it's on this version, is once you have that ink and it snaps to shape, you cannot erase it with your eraser.
You have to actually select it like you do this triangle right here.
Which is painful, but.
And get rid of it. Yeah. But the new thing too, let me show you. I'm going to undo that. In the upper right hand, or at the toolbar up here, there's this lasso, and you can actually lasso things and it will select all of them and get rid of them. just like that. So I had multiple numbers there, and there they go.
Where was the last one?
Right up next to the eraser, up top, here. I need to keep my, I need to keep my arrow going here, hold on. So that way you can see it, there you go, right there. I drew an arrow. I'm still getting used to some things too. I actually drew the full arrow when I should have just gone like that. There we go.
I like that last one.
Yeah, the lasso is real nice. I'm gonna show you another use for that here in a second. How are we doing on time? All right, let's keep cruising. So back to our features here. As I mentioned, you can easily add text. Text is an overlooked thing in Whiteboard. Your brains are used to saying when it's a whiteboard, I have to write on the whiteboard. All right, you need to expand those brains a little bit. I know they've already fit a lot. And know that you can easily drop in a text box, and there we go, just like that, Tricia. My keyboard comes up and I can start typing. I can add content, just like that.
You have to put it back on arrow if you want to move the text box. Yes.
No, I just tap on it because with the Surface Pro, there we go. Is that what you're saying? Yeah.
You have a touch.
I'm using touch, but I also, if I want to move it with my stylus, then yeah, I have to do that. Well, I don't want to do that. But yeah, if you're using touch, and that, if it's not working in your settings, I believe, maybe it's not on this, but you should be able to automatically, it should automatically do it.
So I click on the arrow and then.
Okay. So let me move on over to a different part of this, and let's get into some of the meat and potatoes of this. Okay, I'm going to skip reactions. I'm going to skip notes for now, because you actually have the ability to bring in any image or file document that you want to bring into this. So if I'm teaching here on the fly, and I'm like, hey, I have paper documents. These are Jamie. This is Jamie's instructions. But I'm like, maybe I wanted to actually bring this into my whiteboard space, or maybe it's a student's paper that they turned in, or a writing sample that I want to put on the whiteboard space to not only allow myself to ink on it, but others as well. I can easily open up my camera app on here, and you might get a close-up of my face, so be warned. And at some point, my camera will show up. My server's been running slow today. But that should allow me to take a scan. I'm gonna open my camera up one more time. Let me give it one more chance.
Are you opening it through that whiteboard, or what are you?
No, I'm actually opening it up as a side app here. It's nice to have this available in case you do need to scan things. There we go. And you can see that I don't actually have it on a picture. I have it on a document scan. So I'm going to grab this right here. And it's going to scan that document right there. Boom, there it is. And I don't like it sideways, so I'm going to flip that just like that. And then I'm going to head on over to my whiteboard space. Now, in most cases, you probably were like, yeah, I plan to do this, so you already have it here. You can see I have the phone directory in case you need that if I want to bring that in there. But I'm just going to take this one right here, and it's going to drop it right there. And you're like, well, that's way too small, so I'm just going to drag one of these corner resize areas here. And we're going to make that a little bit larger. And from here, I can take this. I don't want to draw in black on it. We're going to get the galaxy mode going, and I can actually like point to things, and I'm like, you can't really see that very well, but I really want to emphasize that you don't just think about venting or winning. Okay. And if I really want to emphasize it, I could use like the highlighter and highlight things. Okay. And you get the idea. Or maybe there's more that I want to add and I don't want to write all over it. I might use this new sticky note feature and grab a sticky note, whichever color you like. Okay, and I can actually take and place a sticky note right here. Okay, and I can take that sticky note and I can move it, and I can resize it just like that image. And I might want to write more about the goal and purpose. Now, I don't have to just ink in here. Okay, I can, but my handwriting sucks. So I might want to go back and actually add like a text box right in there. And of course, it went away. Where did it go? Come back. Oh, there it is. I just wasn't being patient. Or maybe it's not there. Where'd my text box go? There it is. It's right there. Okay, and I can resize that text box, and I can actually type right on that sticky note and then move it as I need to. Okay, so I'm throwing a lot of different features at you, a lot of different ideas. Obviously, you don't want to use all of them. Okay, you want to maybe pick up a couple of these and put them to use, and then kind of expand as you go. So that's those sticky notes there. As far as sticky notes go, I'm just going to open a new whiteboard quick because I want to show you something. How could you use these sticky notes? Well, you could have students use these sticky notes as like flashcards. So for example, does anyone know what organ this is right here that I'm going to display?
No.
About to. There it is right there. Okay. So I brought this image in. Does anyone know what organ this is? Good job, Michelle. Michelle, you're 2 for 2. Actually, never mind. Dan answered the triangle one. All right. So what I did was, yeah. You're 1 for 1. You're 1 for 1. Okay. We'll put some reactions out there here in a second. But what I did was I actually took these sticky notes, those notes, and I covered up the answers. Check that out. All right. So good old fashioned, you might have your students in this collaborative space write the answer out or type the answer out. All right. And well, they could. I mean,
I'm just wondering, can the students move what you did?
this is kind of absolutely. This is kind of low stakes, though. You know, if they want to move that, they can. Okay, but you could also say, all right, when Judy writes their answer, I want you to put a reaction out there. Okay, so they could put the reaction. Give me that check mark. There it is. I'm trying to move too fast. Okay. And the students could pile up their check marks by what they think is the right answer. Now I went there and shrunk that down. I fat fingered it. Okay. I keep fat fingering it. This is a really good showing for how useful this tool is, isn't it?
That's the same time.
My problem is I'm trying to move too fast right now. I'm not taking my time. There we go. Okay, and then we could actually take that and move that, dog claw on it. Good job, they got the answer right, okay? I say that because that example is not perfect, but there is definitely ways that students could use these reactions to vote on things, okay? If they put, or maybe we created a couple columns for the pizza that you like the best, and we did a pepperoni, a sausage, and a green pepper, and you could use those reactions to vote in those different areas. Okay, so those reactions are there, and they have different uses based on how you might want to put them to use. Another thing, and I know that we got only about 17 minutes left. Another thing that you can do is you can actually add these pre-created templates. Have you seen these templates yet? Okay, so like for example, there's a lot of different categories, but how many of you play like 1 truth or 2 truths and 1 lie in your class? It's like an icebreaker. Anyone ever do that? You can actually use these templates right here. And they are these pre-existing sticky note creations. And I accidentally put 2 in there, so we'll get rid of 1. There we go. And you can see right here that these are all created. Now, these are totally editable. I mean, we can get rid of items. We can change items. We can use the lasso tool to select multiple at a time and get rid of things that we don't want to be there. Okay. And so you can actually use these in your different learning environments. You can see, actually, this is a better example. I should have just used this whole thing for the reactions as well. But you can see that students can actually vote using the reactions on these different stickies right here. Okay. So basically what I'm trying to do is show you all of these different new features and try and give you some sort of idea how you might put them to use in all of your different varied learning environments in a very short amount of time. The whole idea here is that, you know, you're aware of these features and you understand how you might not only just use them for yourself, but how you might use them with your students and how your students might use them with each other as well if they wanted to put this to use, because this is available to your students as well. The last thing that I want to show you as it pertains to these new features is the ability to throw documents in here. When it says documents, it's not just saying Word documents, all right? You can put PDFs, you can put PowerPoints, you can put Word documents, and it actually will link right to your OneDrive. So it's very important that you store the files that you want to use in your OneDrive. And so once this shows up, and I promise you, in most cases, at least in my experience, it loads a whole lot faster. But since I'm up here in front of you trying to show you how awesome this is, it takes a little bit longer. So in any case, I have this PowerPoint right here that I want to use. And when I select it, let me move all of you out of the way. It's going to bring up all the different slides in that presentation. If this were to be a PDF, okay, it would show me all the different pages in that PDF. Now, at this point, you have the option to import all of those slides, or maybe there is one slide that you want to use. Now, I probably selected the wrong one because I did have one of these preloaded with a cell in it. You can see that I do have a checkbox to select all, but we're going to go back to my OneDrive and see if I can't find that one that I wanted to use, just for the sake of today. Let's see here. No, it's not there. Where is it? I got an idea. Let's see if I can find it. One last ditch effort. I have a lot of things in my OneDrive. Oh, there it is, biology. Who would have thought to call it that? It wasn't showing up in my recent, even though it was more recent than the one that I clicked on. So you can see right here, I have 3 slides in this. I only want to bring one in. So I'm just going to select that one, tap on it. And down at the bottom, you can see insert one of 3 pages. And it's actually going to take that slide and it's going to put it right in my whiteboard space. So if I tap on it, I can move it wherever I want. It can have its own little space to itself. And from here, as the instructor, you could put notes along it if you wanted to. And you could put arrows to that note. You know, like, hey, identify this, and there I go, fat fingering this again. I'm going to get this figured out at some point, I promise. Okay. Or you can just write right on it, like, hey, will you point to this slide or this cell or whatever you call those things? What are those blue things? Anyone want to tell me? What is that? Okay. Well, what is that? Huh?
Golgi.
Golgi. Okay. So I'm here learning. Well, what is that? Okay. All right. So there's a lot of different things that you can do by bringing these different items in. I might have brought in a PDF that might have some math questions on them, and you could answer those or have your students answer those. Yeah.
So the benefit of that would be to have multiple people writing on that PDF as opposed, because I can ink better on my PDFs than I can ink in that whiteboard.
Yeah.
So I typically don't.
So if you kind of wanted to expand on it, so Bill, to use him as an example again, always would bring up his PDFs in Adobe. And then he started bringing them up in the Edge browser on the PDF viewer and would just ink right on them. He would actually make PDFs that were blank for the whole purpose of inking on it right here. What this does is it kind of expands your ability to put that PDF right there and ink on it alongside it, and then just move it and still have that same space that you can then share that space with your students afterwards as notes if you wanted to, as just an example. Whereas if you had multiple PDFs, now at the end of your lesson, you have multiple PDFs if you wanted to share those with your students. If a student's like, okay, Dan, but tell me this, and you're like, I don't have a PDF for that, but you could quickly move it out of the way, and you say, well, you want to know what 4x, and there I go with my arrows again. You want to know what 4x plus a minus b and y that equals XY. And you can start breaking that down, right, Dan?
Sure, yeah. How technical you want to get?
I walked away a long time ago. But anyways, so now, and then you could always, okay, you got that, good. I'm glad now we can continue on and go right back to that PDF.
Yeah, I guess that's good. I mean,
You know,
I'd be willing to do that if it would keep up.
You know, or if that doesn't work for you, you could keep doing your PDF thing with your Adobe Acrobat and have a whiteboard open, and you could pop to that. I mean, there's just a lot of options as far as, you know, how and where you want to go with that. But I think that's pretty much all of the new features. Now the rest is up to you to put them to use. It's a lot, and my examples might not have quite hit a chord with you, but I'm sure that, maybe at some point down the road, you'll say, I think Kevin said something about that, or I think the whiteboard has something that could allow me to adapt to that. And I think, let me just make sure we cover the reactions, the templates. Keep in mind that you can always edit those templates to whatever you want them to look like. You can add more notes into those templates, and there are, I don't know, hundreds. There's a ton of them.
Can you add your own templates to that or not?
I have not seen where you can actually create your own yet. But you can, I think you can copy them. So if you were to manipulate them, you could copy them to a different whiteboard space if you really wanted to. So, but as far as I'm concerned, I shared the PowerPoint option with Heather as a solution for trying to identify. Did somebody ask a question? Oh, Becky, you have a question.
Yes, I do. Because quite often what I do is when I'm doing the whiteboard is sometimes I am copy pasting some of the assignment in my math lab, and then I put it onto the whiteboard, because then I can write on it, or the students can write on it, and but I can no longer do it with the new one, and I don't know if there's something else I'm supposed to be doing differently, because my math lab, it's one problem at a time, so it's not like I'm not planned to. I let the students lead on which ones they have questions on.
Yeah, so what you might do is, can you download the My Math Lab as like a PDF?
I don't.
That's would be the next thing is, or you can snip an individual problem. Do you know the shortcut keys on your device for snipping?
Yes, but it's not working for the new whiteboard.
Oh, it won't let you paste in there?
No, it won't let you paste it. In fact, actually, when I snip it, it doesn't even, usually I had a little pop-up on the right side that would say that it was, saved or something like that. And it's not doing that for me anymore.
Snipping is Windows key Shift S, right?
Yes.
Or that's not working. Yeah, there it goes. Oh. Windows key Shift S. And let's say that student resources is my problem. Now that just copies it to the keyboard or to the clipboard, right? And so what you're saying is now when I go to paste it, it doesn't just paste by shortcut.
Nope.
Okay. Yeah, I could see where that isn't cool. So what you'd probably have to do is save it to your desktop and then just bring it in via this way. The good old image bring in. Now that's a few more clicks. There's no doubt about that. But here's the deal too. Whiteboard has come a long way in the past few months. It used to be something I could, even at the start of the pandemic, something I could hardly open up on my desktop to actually ink on and work on. And now you can see all the different things you can do. But Becky's like, but it took away something I used to be able to do. And I can see where that would definitely be frustrating. Maybe I'll ask about that if I think about it after the session, or maybe Becky, you could send me an email quick on the issue, and I'll further look into it and see if we can get a solution figured out for it. Any other questions? We're down to 5 minutes. 5 minutes remaining. Yes, Heather.
Total novice user here. So you were using the Surface Pro the whole time. What about iPads?
Yeah, so iPad, at least the app on this is still a little bit older, but it works great with the Apple Pencil.
And what about our adjunct instructors who don't have that and might just have a Wacom tablet in their room?
Yep, that works, no problem. If I were to bring up the whiteboard on the teacher station, either the app or the web, the Wacom tablet will work just fine. The only thing that is kind of annoying is, and David and I noticed this yesterday, when using the mobile device, you can't add an image, which I think totally defeats the best thing that the mobile device could bring. And then I could quickly bring my camera up, snap a picture of this document. I'm already on the whiteboard on this device as well. And I quickly add that image to the document or the whiteboard. Hopefully that comes soon. I did ask that question this morning on Twitter. So I haven't gotten an answer yet, at least since we started this session.
Does the picture feature work with the iPad?
On the old version, I noticed this morning that it is still there. So until I get an update on this, yes, I actually can bring up the picture thing. I know you can't see it virtual, but the camera is an option and it will actually bring up the camera. So as long as that stays there, you're in business. Any other questions? I put one individual in here to sleep during this session, I see, but I think that's only because she got bored of playing with her ball. I don't blame myself. Anybody virtually have any questions? If you think of something at any point, and here's the deal too, if you think of anything at any point, whether it's a question, whether it's something you're doing that you think is sweet and you want to brag about it, you can tell me and I'll brag for you. So you don't look like you're bragging about yourself, okay? Because if you share these things with me or with others, then somebody else gets a better idea and a better idea and a better idea, and we start really ramping this up, all right? Because I can only give you so much. My brain capacity is only so big, but all of you have more brain power to make this thing really work. So thank you for hanging out with me this afternoon. Those of you in person got to have some pizza, but virtual attendees, I appreciate you as well. So have a good one. And I'm going to stop the recording now so you can say whatever you want.